Tonight, the sky feels unusually clear. The air is quiet, soft and calm. Above the sleeping town, thousands of small silver stars shine gently across the night. It is the kind of evening when everything feels slower, softer, as if the world itself has decided to rest for a while. Emily walks slowly along a quiet path that leads toward the old hill just outside the town. She has walked this path before, many times, but tonight feels different. Tonight feels meaningful, not in a loud way, not in a dramatic way, just quietly meaningful, like something important is waiting ahead. The grass moves gently beneath her steps. The evening breeze carries the soft scent of summer trees and warm earth after a peaceful day. Above her, the stars shine brighter than she remembers seeing them before. She stops for a moment and looks up. Sometimes, when the world becomes too busy, people forget to look at the sky. But tonight, the sky feels impossible to ignore. It stretches endlessly above her, wide and calm, full of quiet light. And somehow, it makes her heart feel lighter too. She continues walking slowly until she reaches the top of the hill. From here, the entire town can be seen below. Soft golden lights glow from windows. Street lamps form quiet shining lines along empty roads. Everything looks peaceful from here, safe from here, still from here. Emily sits down on the wooden bench that stands near the old tree at the top of the hill. This place has always been special to her, even before tonight, even before she understood why. She closes her eyes for a moment and listens. The night is silent, not empty, just calm. The kind of silence that makes thoughts clearer. The kind of silence that helps the heart speak more honestly. A few minutes pass quietly. Then, she hears footsteps behind her, slow footsteps, familiar footsteps. She turns gently and she smiles. Daniel is walking toward her, not quickly, not nervously, just calmly, as if he already knew he would find her here tonight. "I hoped you would come," he says softly. Emily smiles again. "I always come here when the sky looks like this." He looks up toward the stars. "Yes," he says quietly, "it's beautiful tonight." For a moment, they both stand beside the bench looking upward together. Neither of them speaks, but the silence between them does not feel empty. It feels shared. It feels warm. Sometimes, silence can say more than words. Daniel sits beside her under the old tree. The leaves above them move gently in the soft evening breeze. Small shadows shift across the ground. The stars continue shining quietly above them. "I used to come here often," Daniel says after a moment. Emily turns toward him slightly. "You did?" He nods. "Yes, before I met you." She smiles softly. "And after?" He looks at her carefully. "After I met you, this place became different." His voice is calm, but something inside his words feels deeper than before, more honest, more certain. Emily feels her heart become quieter as she listens. There are moments in life when everything suddenly becomes clear, moments when words begin to matter more, moments when silence begins to feel important. This feels like one of those moments. The night breeze moves gently around them. Somewhere nearby, a bird shifts softly in the branches of the tree. The town below continues sleeping peacefully. Daniel looks up at the sky again. "Do you remember the first time we came here together?" he asks. Emily nods slowly. "Yes, it was colder that night. And we stayed longer than we planned," he says quietly. She smiles. "We always stay longer than we plan." They both laugh softly. The sound disappears gently into the night air. For a few moments, they simply sit together, watching the stars. Then Daniel speaks again. "There is something I wanted to tell you tonight." His voice sounds calm, but careful, as if he has been waiting for the right evening to say these words. Emily turns toward him fully now. The stars reflect softly in her eyes. "I'm listening," she says. He takes a slow breath, not because he is unsure, but because he wants this moment to be remembered clearly. "I think some places remember people," he says quietly, "and some evenings remember promises." Emily does not answer. She waits, because she understands that something important is coming. Daniel reaches gently into his coat pocket. Not quickly, not nervously, just carefully, as if time itself has slowed down around them. He takes out a small folded piece of paper, old, carefully kept. Emily looks at it with quiet curiosity. "What is that?" she asks softly. Daniel smiles. "This is something I wrote the first time we came here together." Her eyes widen slightly. "You kept it?" "Yes." He unfolds the paper slowly. The soft sound of the paper opening feels louder than expected in the quiet night air. "I didn't know if I would ever read it to you," he says gently. "But tonight feels right." Emily feels her heart begin to beat a little more slowly and a little more deeply. Because sometimes people can feel when a moment matters, and this moment matters. Above them, the stars continue shining quietly, as if they too are listening. Daniel begins to read. His voice is calm, soft, honest. "I wrote this on a night when I first realized that some people arrive in our lives not by accident, but exactly when they are meant to." Emily does not move. She listens carefully, because she understands that this is more than a letter. This is something closer to a promise. And tonight, under the quiet silver light of the stars, a promise is about to begin. The night remained quiet as Daniel held the small folded paper in his hands. For a moment, he simply looked at it, as if remembering the evening when he had first written those words. Then slowly, he continued reading. "I wrote this on a night when I realized that meeting you had changed something inside me in a quiet way that I could not explain." Emily listened carefully. Every word felt gentle, honest, real, as if the world had suddenly become calmer, clearer, and warmer without needing any reason. Daniel paused briefly, not because he had forgotten the words, but because some words deserve silence around them. He looked at her again and continued, "I didn't know then what our story would become. I didn't know how many evenings we would share together, but I knew something simple. I wanted to keep walking beside you." The wind moved softly through the leaves above them. The stars remained bright and still. Emily felt something warm inside her chest, something steady, something certain. Daniel folded the paper again slowly, then he spoke quietly. "Tonight, I wanted to bring that promise back with me." Emily's voice became softer. "What promise?" Daniel looked at the sky, then back at her. "The promise that I would always choose you." For a moment she didn't answer, not because she didn't understand, but because sometimes the most important words need time to settle gently inside the heart. The town below remained peaceful, lights glowing quietly in the distance. The night air wrapped softly around them. Daniel continued speaking, his voice calm and certain. "I don't know what every tomorrow will bring. No one ever does. But I know something else. I want every tomorrow to begin with you beside me." Emily felt her fingers move slightly closer to his, not quickly, not nervously, just naturally, as if they had always belonged there. I used to think promises had to be big, Daniel said quietly. Something dramatic, something unforgettable. He smiled gently. But now I understand that the most important promises are quiet ones. Emily looked at him. What kind of promise is this? Daniel reached for her hand slowly, carefully, as if the moment itself mattered more than anything else in the world. This is the promise that I will stay. The stars above them seemed brighter now, or maybe the night simply felt clearer. Emily's voice was barely louder than the wind. And if someday the path becomes difficult, Daniel didn't hesitate, then I will still stay. And if the days become busy, I will still stay. And if life changes, he smiled softly, I will still stay. Emily's eyes reflected the quiet silver light of the sky. And if nothing changes at all, Daniel's voice became even softer. Then I will stay happily. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They simply sat together under the wide open sky, listening to the quiet breathing of the night. Somewhere nearby, the leaves moved gently again. A small cloud passed slowly across the stars, then disappeared. Emily leaned slightly closer to him, not because she needed to, but because she wanted to. I made a promise too, she said softly. Daniel looked at her. You did? She nodded. Yes, I made it the first night we came here together. He smiled with quiet surprise. You never told me. I wasn't ready then. And now? Emily looked up at the sky. The stars stretched endlessly above them, bright, patient, listening. Now I am. Daniel waited quietly, because some words should never be rushed. Emily took a slow breath, then she spoke. I promised myself that if I ever found someone who made the world feel calmer just by being near me, I would never be afraid to stay beside him. Daniel's fingers held hers more gently now. And did you find that person? Emily smiled softly. Yes. The night seemed to become even quieter around them, as if the world itself wanted to remember this moment. Daniel stood slowly and held out his hand. Come with me, he said gently. Emily stood beside him. Together they walked a few steps closer to the edge of the hill. From there, the entire sky opened wider above them. The stars seemed endless, timeless, peaceful. Daniel pointed upward. My grandfather once told me something, he said. What did he say? He said that promises made under the stars are the ones the heart remembers forever. Emily looked up. Thousands of small lights rested quietly above them. Then she looked back at him. Then we should make one more promise. Daniel smiled. Yes, we should. They stood close together beneath the quiet silver sky, and together they made a promise without needing many words. A promise to walk side by side, a promise to listen, a promise to stay, a promise to choose each other again and again, through every quiet evening and every changing season, still waiting somewhere ahead. The wind moved softly around them again. The tree behind them whispered gently in the night, and somewhere far below, the town lights continued glowing peacefully. Emily rested her head lightly against his shoulder. Daniel held her hand a little closer. Neither of them spoke again, because sometimes love does not need more words. Sometimes a promise under the stars is already enough. And even many years later, whenever they returned to that quiet hill on warm summer evenings, they always looked up at the same sky. They always remembered the same night. And they always smiled because they knew something simple and something true. Some promises are made only once, but they are kept for a lifetime.